Just as we all predicted back in March, Joey Cantillo would have the best pitching performance of the year. It would come in September when the Guardians needed one the most.
Tanner Bobby the Guardians, and you're listening to Locked On Guardians.
You are Locked On Guardians, your daily podcast on the Cleveland Guardians. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show today. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Visit FanDuel.com to get started today.
On today's episode of Locked On Guardians, we'll talk about the Guardians winning 5-3 over the White Sox to decrease their magic number to 15. We'll also get into what it means to beat bad teams and what you can take away from those games. We'll get into Joey Cantillo's excellent performance, of course. We'll continue to talk about any necessary roster tweaks for the rest of September, maybe October, and we will get to Minor League Monday leftovers on a Tuesday episode. And I think we're also maybe going to hopefully talk some AFL assignments too, because those are starting to come in. We might talk about Guardians prospects who could play in the AFL this fall.
Yeah, absolutely. I am one of your two hosts here. I'm Jeff Ellis, one of the OG hosts in terms of the Locked On MLB Network. For this, I was a lead draft analyst at Scout and 24/7. Before that, I was your 19th favorite blogger at every sports blog that has or will exist. And yesterday's number was 41. That was in honor of the how many years between 1954 and 1995 it was that this team had made the postseason, because on September 8th of 1995 is when they clinched that postseason appearance.
Yeah, Jim, tell me what the final catch. That was like the earliest playoff spot had been clinched. Of course, that was the first year of 6 divisions.
So. They were 30 games up, I want to say, on the Royals. They finished 30 games ahead of the Royals.
Yeah, just a few games ahead, running away with that division there. It was a close race there at one point, maybe on May, whenever that season started after the lockout and all of that. I'm Justin Latta. Thanks for being with us. If you are a everydayer, first timer, or somewhere in between, I've been covering the Guardians minor league system since 2007, and I was formerly editor of the Guardians Baseball Insider, currently freelancing with the News Herald and the Morning Journal, where I'll be covering the Game 4 in Lake County on Thursday. There's still a couple days left to get your tickets to the Captain's game on Thursday with our code and our link that's on YouTube and in the description of your podcast. You get 20% off. You can come hang out with me and some other Locked On listeners, and you can also win a Tanner Bybee autograph. So all kinds of fun stuff coming up on Thursday. That'll be Tugboat pitching. I'm sorry, not Tugboat. That'll be Dylan DeLucia pitching on Thursday for the Captains.
Another
Tugboat
interesting
goes
guy,
on Tuesday.
though.
Yeah, he's had a really good run lately. His last start was pretty solid. He's had a pretty good year. I think he's the guy who also might be an AFL candidate, so we'll see. Guardians magic number down to 15. Number 15, the only thing I can think of is Sandy Alomar, to be honest with you.
I don't have one
Anybody
off the top
else
of my head, unfortunately.
stand out?
Right.
Yeah, I don't think else stands out besides Sandy Alomar to me. I think he's worn 15 ever since he's been here. Guardians moved to 82 and 62. They're 20 games above 500. The Royals, if you're watching on YouTube, we have a scoreboard scrolling. The Yankees helped out the Guardians with a 10-4 win over the Royals. The Twins continue to have a tough stretch here. They lost. They're now 5.5 back. 6 back of the Guardians. Guardians also hold a tiebreaker over them, so that's good. So the Guardians pick up a game, most importantly, as the Twins lost and the Royals lost. So good timing.
Wait, you forgot
everything there.
You forgot Tim Laker, Ramon Vasquez, Mike Rouse, Andy Marte, and Wyatt Torriegas as recent guys. Other big 15s: Frank Duffy, Fred Whitfield, Johnny Allen have held the number for multiple years in the history of the franchise. Frank Duffy is the name that I was most familiar with.
I do have some standout memories of Mike Rouse that I can't share on air, but maybe I could.
Oh, I have no memory of Mike Rouse.
There was a guy who used to work for the Indians back in the day who would come hang out in Lake County with us and sit in the press box. He was like one of their hitting coordinators, and Mike Rouse was not a skilled player holding the baseball bat, and we just talk about baseball up in the press box, and we would just joke about his hitting prowess, and the Indians hitting coach or Indians minor league hitting coordinator at the time used to say, Rouse, he's a hard worker. And we would just like, okay, like that's great. He's a And the Guardians ended up beating the White Sox 5-3. So what does it mean when the Guardians beat a bad team? Well, I hate to be negative on a night that Joey Cantillo had 10 strikeouts in 7 innings. That's the overarching theme here tonight. Is Joey Cantillo was awesome. Would have been nice though if you could have
just like I predicted.
Yes, just like yesterday, Jeff. You're like, should have started Cantillo against the Dodgers, taking your loss, and let Tanner Bybee.
No. See, you should have started him against the Dodgers so he could have dominated. Listen, I got it wrong. I have no problems admitting when I got it wrong. I'm not out here clout chasing. When I'm wrong, I'm wrong, and I was very, very wrong.
Yeah, the only real negative takeaway was, fortunately, Nick Stanley was not good. I think the thing you were hoping for is it was 5-0 at one point. That was 5-1, and the Guardians were 1 for 14 with runners in scoring position. They could have blown this game open and not used Gaddis and Clase. I think that's the only thing to take away is you didn't want to use the big guys tonight, and you had to use the big guys. But Joey Cantillo, that was the.
They should have had at least one more because of Lane Thomas. Lane Thomas had 3 hosed calls. Like one of those would have been a bases loaded walk. So they should have at least had 6 from him getting in on that walk. But it was. He has been. He and Jose Ramirez have almost identical OPSs over the last 30 days. Just a fun fact.
That's good for Lane and bad for Jose. I'm gonna say.
Yeah.
Not what you want for Jose, but Lane's getting in the right direction. Yeah, that was the best pitching performance though by a Guardians pitcher. Last week you had Gavin Williams go 7. For all the torching of him on Monday and everyone getting upset about Gavin Williams. Last Monday against the Royals, when they absolutely needed to beat the Royals, he allowed 1 hit. He walked 2 and 1 run, and he went 7 innings. Something, the Guardians have not had a whole lot of 7-inning outings this season. Gavin's done it once. Tanner's done it once, twice, 3 times. Ben Lively's done it once this year. And then Logan Allen, that's it. I'm sorry, Tristan McKenzie did it once back in May. So the Guardians have had less than 10 outings this season from a pitcher who's gone 7 innings. So for all the hooting and hollering about Gavin's performance last week, he gave him a big one. Then you wanted to come into this series and you had to push Alex Cobb back. You had to push Ben Lively back. You had to push everybody back because of the blister for Alex Cobb, which we'll get into more of. But Cantillo came up big. He took a perfect game into the 7th inning, and you just don't see that a lot, especially from guys. What was it? It was the longest perfect game bid by
second longest by a pitcher with
longest.
Yeah, and Travis Wood.
No career wins.
Travis Wood with 0 career wins.
Yeah, and pitcher wins mean almost nothing, but it means something to Joey Cantillo, who will certainly take a game ball home from this.
Yeah,
10 strikeouts, and honestly, the thing you take away from beating bad teams, even when you have to unfortunately use the big dogs in your bullpen in a game you really shouldn't have to, and you really would like to not have to. I think it's building good habits. I think for Joey Cantillo, yes, the White Sox lineup is pretty horrid. Everybody's bad, but it should show you that, okay, I should trust my stuff. I can get hitters out. Are the Yankees, are the Phillies, are the Orioles? That guy, Joey Cantillo, has been thrown to the fire his first couple of games of his career. He's faced the Twins, the Phillies, the Orioles, the Yankees, and other starts. So he finally got one against the White Sox that he could, go out and I don't know. He shouldn't feel any different, but at least it proves okay, my stuff plays. Tristan McKenzie went through this, and he's still going through this, unfortunately. But in 2022, he found his rhythm because he faced the Tigers, and Miguel Cabrera gave him the confidence and said, "This, your stuff plays at this level." Joey Cantillo can get outs. His stuff is there. He's just got to throw strikes. So anything you look for when you're playing bad teams, no matter who you're playing and who's in your lineup, is I think it's building off good habits. I think it's Cantillo throwing strikes and getting confidence. I think it's Jhonkensy Noel, who in his first at bat did chase out of the zone, but he came back to work 2 walks, and one of those was a bases loaded walk, which is great. Stephen Kwan, his first hit of the game was an opposite field single. It was on a pitch away, 0-2, or with 2 strikes. And he needs to get back to doing that. I think it's about building good habits and confidence, right? You want to go out there and prove you can beat these bad teams, or you have to be able to do it if you're going to win a division and do anything else.
Before
so
we call them a bad team, we might want to hold up a bit. Is Cleveland and Chicago have the exact same number of hitters with OPSs over 770 in the last month. So before we spend too much time saying it's a terrible team, we maybe don't want to live in a glass house.
I'm not interested in what players are doing over the last month. The White Sox have 111 losses. They're a bad team.
They're a bad team.
It's
I'm
a
just saying
bad team,
offensively,
112.
like, yes.
I don't
Offensively,
care
there's
what
a
their
few
hitters have
guys.
done in the last month. They have 112 losses. They are a terrible. They're not just a bad team. They're the worst team in baseball history. Okay.
No,
They
I mean,
are.
I know they're bad. Don't get me wrong, but like, I also don't want to completely set
They're
it
bad,
up
Jeff.
where it's I don't want to take
Why
away
are
from
you being-
Cantillo
Why are
to a
you?
degree. Like,
It doesn't matter who he faced. He went out there and got the outs. It doesn't matter who he faced.
he took care of
I'm
it.
just
And like
saying-
I said, it's just it's Cleveland's offense is having their own set of struggles. And yeah, they're not as bad as the White Sox.
I mean,
Nobody
they were
is,
1 for 14 with runner in scoring position. Yes.
yeah, but I mean, this is a game they should have probably put up like, I know people want me to do box score bingo again. Maybe I'll start doing it as nows, but like they should have had double digit runs with the situations they were in, and they did not take care of business. So as positive as I am about Cantillo, it's nice to see Quan reach base 3 times. Thomas probably should reach base 3 times as well. This offense is still not good against a really bad pitching staff.
That throw a bullpen game. Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say they struck out 5 times against Jared Schuster, but they scored 3 runs. They did enough. No, I agree. I mean, they took care of business. They did what they needed to do. Yeah, you'd like more, I suppose. It's just funny, we're sitting here now we're gonna be negative about a win, and I'm sure we're gonna have a comment about that. But it's like,
I know.
They took care of business. It's all you can ask for. And then again, like I'm saying, I think you want to take away building good habits. Again, Quan getting back to doing what he used to be good at, which is going the other way with 2 strikes and just getting on base. And David Fry home run off a lefty, and Noel not chasing, and Cantillo finally proving that his stuff works no matter who it works against. I think you just want to build good habits, and you want to prove that you're good enough. They were 5-5 against the White Sox until this. They're 6-5 now. You win one more, you win the season series. It's hilarious. This will be one of the closest series of the year within your division. But this is the time of year you got to take care of business, and they did that. So you want to just build off of that and build good habits. Go out there and do good things against bad teams, and convince yourself that I can do those against good teams too, whether it's Quan or Cantillo or Noel. Like, convince yourself you can do those against good teams as well. We'll get into a few more things from the Guardians win over the White Sox. We will talk more about a little bit more Manuel Clase. We'll look at pitching plans for the rest of the week for the Guardians. We'll continue to talk about roster tweaks for this roster for the rest of the year and maybe into October, which will also get us into Minor League Monday and Tuesday, all things we missed yesterday. So all that, if you stick around on today's Locked On Guardians. Still searching for those Buckeye tickets. They had a great game against Western Michigan. I am excited to continue to look for prices against Marshall on the 21st. I still haven't bought them. You know why I haven't bought them yet? Because A, I haven't had commitment from friends who are going to go yet. But B, I also know that if I wait until the last minute, I'm going to get great deals on these tickets because game time, the prices always go down closer to first pitch or kickoff, whatever it is. And I know I'm going to use the game time picks to show me where the best seats in the house are. Down in the Horseshoe, it's going to show me super deals, amazing deals. It's going to tell me that based off of the price. It's going to tell me that based off the seats, what they normally go for, all that good stuff. And I'm going to use the all-in pricing because it's going to tell me I can find a ticket for, let's see, $87 out the door for the Marshall and Ohio State game. So I know I'm going to pay $87 for that ticket at checkout. No surprise fees. That is really good to me. I would hate to get there and all of a sudden I'm paying $120. That's very annoying. Whatever sporting event you want to go to, GameTime is the place to do it. I mean, I use the app all the time. I'm going to continue to use it. And if you're a first-time buyer, we've also got a code for you, so that's going to be awesome. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with GameTime. Download the app, create an account, and make your first purchase. Use Lockdown MLB as your code. You'll get $20 off. Terms apply. Again, create your account. Redeem code Lockdown MLB, LOCKEDON MLB for $20 off. Download GameTime today. What time is it? It's game time. And check out our pal Sully over at Lockdown MLB, covering all the pennant races, the chases for 50-50 for Ohtani, how bad the White Sox are, his Red Sox beating the Orioles on Monday night somehow. The Tigers are chasing down a playoff race. The Twins are trying to give a playoff race away. Sully's got you covered on all the headlines if you want to catch up on those over at Lockdown MLB, part of the Lockdown Podcast Network, your team every day. Jeff, I like the lineup a little bit better on on Monday. We talked Tuesday or Sunday about how, or Monday, I should say. We didn't like the lineup on Sunday. It was a poor construction as far and lineup construction sometimes can be overblown. It is often overblown, but when you do things like lead off players in a certain position just because you do with everybody else and you're trying to keep everybody else in the same spot or rhythm, it gets really goofy. But Stephen Vogt and the Guardians knew that the White Sox were putting Jared Schuster as their opener, and he's a lefty. They put David Fry hitting second. They haven't really had a consistent number 2 hitter, and Fry hits lefty. So it's get him up there and see if you can get an early at bat and offense for him. And he struck out the first time, or I think he did. But he had a home run in the second at bat. So you got some offense out of that. That was smart. You got Noel in there, and he had 2 walks, which, great. You had, Lane Thomas in there following Naylor in the 5-hole, which still trying to figure that out. But I mean, you're able to pinch hit Manzardo later in the game. I know he didn't do anything, but you're able to pinch hit him ahead of Jose Ramirez, which also is advantageous for Manzardo, even though Jose didn't have the greatest night in the world. I don't know, much better. It's one game, and all of this may not matter in the long run, but it's much better decisions. I actually liked the creativity. I wouldn't mind seeing him do that again. Either move Jose number 2 against lefties or have Fry number 2 against lefties.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind Lane Thomas 1 or 2 either.
That's true. Yeah.
It's just because only against lefties, not against righties.
Right.
But people are going to accuse me of being a homer with him, so I'm just going to stop. Though I will say I appreciated 22 pitches and 2 at bats. That was kind of different to see. I think
the umpires didn't appreciate it.
They did not. But one of those things, just looking at the game, it made perfect sense. I liked having Fry there. I am hopeful for Quan. He reached base 3 times in this one. I'm going to keep remaining hopeful that, he's going to turn around. I didn't look at when I'm watching on a lot of the games, it's like I have it's during bedtime, so I don't actually get to watch. I more get to listen. And I can't have open the game day, so I haven't had a chance to really look into Quan's at bats and see if those 2 walks came with maybe low in the zone or some of those things we talked about he needs to work on. But I mean, there's a world too where if Quan keeps struggling, you know what, against lefties, put Lane Thomas 1, David Fry 2, and Jose 3, and I'd be pretty happy.
Where are you putting Quan in that instance? Remember, Quan also has reverse splits.
He does. He's actually been pretty decent. It's like, I don't know. I still like the idea of Noel 5 personally. I might consider Quan at 6 and AG at 7. Is AG have reverse switch splits this year, or has that gone back?
I think so. I think he still continues at lefties better, but he's been fairly average across the board or slightly below average.
Yeah.
Most
so
cases.
I mean, he's might be 7, and then you got, you can then run out there with Naylor at 8, who stole a base and a home run today, and Rocchio, who's playing better offensively of late. Like, credit where it's due, he is having a much. I just wish we saw more consistency with him, but he is. I have to also eat some crow there. He's definitely playing better of late.
Yeah, for what it's worth, Quan did have a strikeout tonight. And it was chasing a pitch he shouldn't have chased, which was bad. And then he also had a fly out and a curveball that was out of the zone, and he popped that up. Still having a lot of pop-ups.
No, this year, Jimenez is a 58 weighted runs created plus against lefties and a 97 against righties. So this year, he's really bad against lefties. He can't hit them at all. So, I mean, there's a world where he might be better off hitting versus lefties, like even consider hitting him 9th.
Yeah. Do we think at this point there's going to be any other roster moves? Like, I just don't think, we said coming into the month that there's a chance that this roster hasn't had its final form. They'll do some other stuff, but the more and more we get deeper into September, the more and more I look at things, I'm like, who are you shuffling down? Who are you bringing up? Because we've talked ad nauseum about George Valera, and it's like, you're not really bringing him up at this point because he's not going to play right field because you've got Noel and you've got Lane. And they keep playing Will Brennan, and like you're not going to, and you're also not going to bring him to sit on the bench because it just doesn't help anybody, maybe, and you're not going to, your Steeman has done more at the major league level. And how much is Valera going to gain from being up here for 2 weeks and not playing, or how much are you going to gain looking at him anyway at this point? Juan Brito doesn't have a position. You could still bring up Angel Martinez, but he's still, he had a good week last week in the minor leagues, but you're also probably not going to put him on the bench. Like Schneemann is at this point has settled into a backup role. He plays third on the days that Jose DHs. He occasionally plays the outfield against a right-handed pitcher who he might be able to take advantage of. And then, Freeman is back to playing once a week because he can't hit. And he's basically the outfielder now because he hasn't played infield in forever. And it's like, you're not going to bring Angel up to play once a week either. So it's like, maybe this is the final form of the roster at this point. I don't know. Like the only thing you can look at is the bullpen. Your entire starting five, you have Williams, Beide, Cobb, Boyd, Lively. That's who it's going to be. Give or take whoever you decide to move in the playoffs. One of those guys probably goes to the bullpen, whatever. The only thing I can think of is like, are you carrying Sobrowski into October? I guess you're looking to see if you feel like you can be confident in him, but also in October, he's going to be a mop-up guy. Because like right now, your mop-up guys are what? Avila and Sobrowski, and you don't use Morgan unless you're going to extra innings or you're, a starter gets knocked out early. Sandlin's not trustworthy, but I just have a hard time feeling like they're going to move on from Sandlin. Like I know they DFA'd Barlow, but it's like Sandlin has options and he's controllable. The reason Barlow was expendable was because they weren't going to bring him back and he didn't have options. So it's like, do you really even see a place on this roster to bring up at Andrew Walters or Franco Alemán? Like, I just don't think they're going to do it at this point.
No, and I think the big thing is what we've talked. I mean, like I said, I talked about how maybe in the postseason you can make it work with Walters and Williams because Williams is going to be able to pitch every day. But like in the current role, it doesn't make a lot of sense. I mean, I do think we'll see some changes pitching wise. I think there's a chance, like when things settle out, when Cantillo, whenever Cobb is ready to pitch, that Cantillo could end up out and Strzelecki or Gillespie, I think, could come up because I don't think they're going to carry three lefties, and right now they
have two lefties right now.
I know.
Sobrowski and Heron.
That's what I mean. But when Cobb is ready, they're not going to move Cantillo to a pen roll as a third lefty. So he is likely to go down. So then that likely means, is there a chance that they could go to Walters? I still think there is a chance. Is it likely? No, but I could see a situation where they view it as, this is a pathway to success, or this, get his feet wet. Was, why? I'm trying to think like, there's been recent guys who came up like, or a Ryan Kirkring who felt like 2 weeks before. And, just keep your eye on that. I think there's still a chance of it. I don't know if it's a sure thing, but I do think there's a chance of that. And I'm just very curious to see, because that Strzelecki, the next time he's up, if he's sent down, he's cut, right?
Yeah, I think we're at the point in the year where they won't care about that as much either.
I would think that, but then you would be like, well, it's kind of goes back to the Barlow of it all, right? Like if they're going so far as to cut Barlow, it's interesting that
they want to hang on to their depth.
Well,
that's exactly why Anthony Gose came back for the fifth time because they didn't want to burn. Well, yeah, they didn't want to burn Strzelecki's last option. Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, as far as playoff purposes go, like the idea of carrying two lefties, right? Like Sobrowski, I have really no idea if you can trust him in the playoffs or not. And I don't know if there's enough time left in the season, and if you really want to put him into a situation where you feel like you have to trust him, because really your trustworthy relievers are Heron, Smith, Gaddis, and Clase. Yep. And everybody else is kind of only coming in the playoffs when you're losing. The only thing with Morgan's pitched better lately, but also Morgan can get left-handers out because of his changeup. So in some fashions, he does sort of work as a lefty, right? Because he has the changeup to beat lefties. So like he's not a lefty, but he can get lefties out. I guess there's a potential for a change there. I kind of think Avila is going to make the postseason roster at this point.
Yeah, 100%.
Unless you're just going to move one of the starters to the pen, you leave him off for the first round.
I mean, Avila has been such a Swiss Army knife for them. He's safe. I don't have any doubt.
But if you're going to move someone to the bullpen, maybe his role becomes expendable. I don't know. Because as much as we talk about wanting to use Gavin Williams as a reliever, I don't think they're going to do it.
No, I know, but like if you're, I don't necessarily think they're going to have to carry two lefties. I just think Zabrowski and then Sandlin, he can't keep it together, right? Like he has 3 good, then 1 bad. Like
Yeah,
they've been going to Avila in those situations a lot more often than they've been going to
and
Sandlin.
probably too much for him too. Even like
Yeah, no, I
they're probably
agree,
using
but
trusting Avila too much, even though he's
too
been
much.
solid.
But he's been the guy they're trusting, so I think they actually have more faith in him. I think it's a better chance Sandlin's left off than him.
There is one guy in the minors, pitching wise, who could fill a role, and it's not Walters and it's not Alamon. It's somebody else who's going to pitch this week. We'll talk about that pitcher and if he could realistically be an option for the postseason, or at least the end of the season. We come back.
But first, let's talk about our friends over at FanDuel. Before I do that, player prop, the Jose 40-40 debate. People, it's a fun thing if you could get to 40-40. I feel like a lot of people are not happy about the 40-40 as it stands right now, just because of it does feel like he is going all out for home runs. Got 2 stolen base 36 today. If you think he's going to get there, that's a plus 162. If you think he's not, it's minus 210. I still kind of lean towards no. I know that's not the fun way, but you've heard us talk about FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, but we have something a little different for you now, though. Through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get 3 weeks of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out of market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel anytime. Just visit FanDuel.com, America's #1 sportsbook.
Guardians and White Sox will do it again at 7:40 on Tuesday evening. You can listen to all the action on your SiriusXM app just by searching Guardians. So no Alex Cobb in that one. They're hoping the Guardians he'll pitch on during the Tampa Bay series, which starts on Thursday. The blister just getting close to healing, not quite. So hey, Joey Cantillo came up and made it work. So kudos, I guess. The guy wasn't even supposed to start originally. Carlos Carrasco is going to make a rehab appearance for the Rubber Ducks this week in Akron. Is there any chance that he slides into a bullpen role down the stretch? And, we've talked about in the past how one time through the order, Carrasco's numbers better than Avila's. A guy with playoff experience. Is that somebody that you'd be interested in seeing? I guess you got to see him come back and see what he can do once he comes back. But I think you're not going to start him at this point, right? Like, there's no way he's getting a role over anybody in the rotation at this point. I don't know. Would you be interested in Carlos Carrasco, playoff reliever?
No, because he hasn't done it. Like, I don't want to put a guy in that role for the postseason when it's a role he hasn't had. Like, it's one thing to kind of get used to it or get some opportunities. I know we're talking about Gavin Williams hasn't done it. We're going to put him in that role. But
I mean, that was, more of
that's more of like a guy who's, I know, but it's also like in those cases, it's a player who's been playing and playing well. Carrasco was on the verge of losing his job to begin with before this happened. Yes, he's good the first time through the order, but I trust Avila more than him. I trust Morgan more than him. There's not like, I'm assuming that if we go down 2 arms, it's Zabrowski is one of them. And then, I don't know. Like, I don't, who are you taking out? Like I said, Zabrowski and Sandlin are the guys that move out for me as you move starters into the pen. I'm not taking Carrasco over Avila. I'm not taking him over Eli Morgan right now. I'm not taking him over Lively or, whatever other starter doesn't make the cut. Like he just hasn't been good enough. So I absolutely, I maybe put him on the injured list again, or so he can, whatever the rules are, so he can be with the team as much as he can. And then, thank him for his service this year, but he just didn't show me enough.
Yeah. I tend to agree with you there, but we'll see. Maybe he just kind of goes out and makes his final appearance and, gets a nice swan song there at the end. Did we talk James Karinchak? Yes, I think we did. We did.
Yeah, we did talk about how he was 91, 92, barely 93.
Yeah, I don't think he's coming back. I think again, it's just a service. Let's talk, Nick Enright is another guy who had a good weekend. He's back. Nick Enright would have been up this year if he didn't get hurt again. I feel bad. Yeah. Juan Brito continues to hit well, but again, he just has no position at this point.
He's a DH.
Yeah, and I just don't know what you do with him going into the offseason. Like, I just almost feel like he's a trade candidate unless you You're waiting on Bazana, and you've got Rocchio, who I think they're committed to, and there's still Arias at some point, and there's still obviously Jimenez. So it's like there just doesn't seem to be a home for Brito. The Josh Naylor thing could affect him because I guess he could play first, but you've got Noel and Manzardo and Fry could all play first with the Noel thing or the Naylor thing, which we'll get into over the offseason. So I don't know. Brito's spot to me is just very, very interesting. Real quickly, before we get into Lake County stuff, I saw that the White Sox beat reporters were putting out who for the White Sox were going to be in the Arizona Fall League. So some of these announcements are going to come in soon. I know the Guardians already have what team they'll be playing for. I have to go back and look it up, but AFL announcements should be coming up any week now at this point. You might wait until Lake County
is a guy who is 100%. Like that is a guy who's going to be out there just because of all the time missed, who you mentioned previously.
Yeah, I put him on my list because of that, but I also kind of wonder, being his first year back from Tommy John, are they going to want to wait till next year? He might go to Instructs to kind of control his innings usage, and then maybe next year he does it. So I'm on the fence there. Like, I agree he could, but I think Cleveland could also play careful with DeLucia as far as innings pitched because just because he's coming off Tommy John surgery, and they might want to be a little more conservative with that. Here's some guys I do think are going. I think Franco Alaman, I would almost bet 99% Franco Alaman going to the AFL because he's got to be put on the 40 this offseason. He missed a ton of time this year. And you always got to send relievers out there because of the environment and requirements. I think Franco Alaman is 100% going out there. So that'll be fun to watch because he really needs the experience. And I think Cleveland wants
maybe he'll pitch in back-to-back games finally.
Maybe it'll be the first time in his career. Something about Guardians relief prospects and not pitching, like actual relief prospects, not like Anthony Goes or like Strzelecki. Like these guys, they're not doing the back.
Is there a world where like Valera could go out from his missed time earlier in the year and as a way to showcase the bat a little?
Yeah, I don't know. Valera's never done the AFL, so you're right. Maybe there's a potential for that. I didn't think of that. You're right. That could be a thing. He'd be a little advanced for it in terms of prospect eligibility. Like you don't see a lot of guys at that level. Like AAA is not typically a level you get guys from up there, not a ton. But you're right. The time missed could be a factor there, and just trying to figure out what to do with him. Sean Rapp is a reliever from Lake County who was a pick from UNC 2 years ago. He missed a big chunk of the year with an injury. I thought he was out for Tommy John, so it's a good thing he wasn't. I think he's an easy candidate to go because he needs innings. Everybody's got to send a catcher, so I'm thinking Cody Huff is going to be the Guardians catcher that goes to the AFL because he skipped high A this year. Went straight from low A to double A, so I think that'll make sense. There's DeLucia. I think Angel Hanau is also a good candidate for the AFL. It's been a long season for him, but he really had a breakout. I'd be curious to see what he can do there.
They've done that with like Tana and a few other shortstops at that point in their career.
Yeah, I mean the only difference was Tana was about 40-man eligible, whereas Hanau is next year. So we'll see what they do there. Wilfredo Antunez, we talked about him. He is Rule 5 eligible. He's had a heck of a stretch here at Lake County. I wouldn't be surprised to see him there. I would bet on Petey Halpin too, because Petey Halpin is a guy that's is Rule 5 eligible this offseason and has been kind of stalled out at Double A. I know he's on the injured list right now too, so if he gets healthy, that might be a guy they want to send the AFL and get a look at. Diane Frias, similar situation. Great year last year, has not hit Double A pitching, but is also again Rule 5 eligible. So he might.
What about Isaiah Green since he's Rule 5 eligible?
I'm gonna say Isaiah Green probably will not play in the AFL, and that's all. I'm gonna leave it at that. Jake Miller has missed a lot of time this year. I think he'll probably go to the AFL to get some innings. Other guys that are Rule 5 eligible, Yordis Valdez is Rule 5 eligible. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets some reps there. Milan Tolentino, same situation. Alaska Abney is Rule 5 eligible this winter. I would, everyone needs to send relievers. I think Abney makes a ton of sense there. He's an interesting sidearmer. I've never seen Abney pitch really that well in person. For whatever reason, every time I've seen him pitch in person, he does not do well. But I'm told the days I'm not there, he pitches great. And I don't know. Rodney Boone, probably another guy that also, if he's healthy, will need to get innings and go to the AFL. For what it's worth, like people might ask, Travis Bazana, I asked him 2 weeks ago when I had my interview with him if he thought AFL was an opportunity for him, and he said they hadn't talked about it, but he would be open to it. There's a lot of things he wants to do in his first year, but at the end of the day, I don't think they're going to
want to give those extra innings.
Well, yeah, he's been playing baseball since February, and
Yeah.
the AFL runs into almost Thanksgiving, so I'd have a hard time believing he's going to play that much. So I would not expect Travis Bassano to play in the AFL. We'll see.
No, and
Lake County plays this week. Go about your Bassano thing. I'll wait.
Well, no, I was just gonna say that we're going to get into the 40 man of it all because there's even more names we didn't talk about. It's not a super deep class, but there's some interesting players we do need to discuss who didn't come up in the AFL. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, we'll have some of those discussions as the year ends as well. Again, for Lake County this week, come hang out. So Tugboat starts on Tuesday at Dayton. That game is at Dayton. Delucia on Thursday. If it goes to a game 3 on Friday, it will be Rorick Maltrude. And they'll still have Bazzana. They'll still have Ralphie. They'll have Cozart, who has had a hard time hitting. And they'll still have Hanau. You still have Antunes. It's still a pretty good lineup. The Dragons have Cam Collier. And
highly rated in the great Jim Bowden's most recent prospect rankings.
Sure, yeah, along with other very interesting names. Dayton doesn't have a particularly big name roster, but they've had some performers that are still around this year. They still got Bryce Hubart, who has been really terrible this year somehow, among other guys. So yeah, you'll see Delucia Thursday, possibly Rorick Maltrude Friday, and after that, it'll be, if they win, we'll have another playoff series to talk about. But Tugboat starts game 1. I think the Captain's got a pretty good shot here. Dayton did win the second half, and Lake County has seen a number of players go to AA since they won their championship or their division title. But starting pitching wise, they're in a good spot. I think that'll be a big key for the Captains. If the starting pitching does their thing, I think they'll win that series. Tugboat should almost give them an automatic win, honestly, as long as they hit. Depending on who comes out of the bullpen. The bullpen, we'll see. But come hang out Thursday. Definitely. Come hang out. Buy tickets. Come hang out. Use the code Locked On. Use our link. Come hang out and maybe win a Tanner Bybee autograph.
Friend of the show.
Friend of the show.
Yep. I do like Jay Driver as an interesting guy in that pen, but that's a talk for another day. That's some off-season chatter.
A good season.
I do want to give 2 quick shout outs. Thank you to Banks 3K for changing it to a 5-star review when he found out the full story. And shout out to do I have it right here? Andrea. Nope. That was last time's Rob Kermode for a iTunes review as well. Another UKer. I think we're up to 5 in the UK. So the rest of you countries, you're on notice. You got to catch up with the UK for number 2. But I want to thank you all for joining us as always. They won. A lot of guys had solid games. And, I mean, should I end with a lightsaber salute? Is it too annoying to have the...
Yeah, R.I.P. James Earl Jones. Field of Dreams, definitely a top 3 baseball movie for me.
Yeah, no, it's and a great book. I read the book and as required reading for a sports lit class and quite enjoyed it. Yeah, I mean, Coming to America, you can just keep going on and on and on with one of the greats, just one of the greats. No other way around it. So thank you to James Earl Jones for all of the joy you have brought all of us. You are a part of everyone who's watching's childhood and adulthood in some form. So thank you. Sincerely, you made the world a better place. What more can anyone ask? And sincerely, thank you all for joining us. We appreciate each and every one of you, all of our everydayers. And thank you. And go Guardians.